All right. Hey, man. Thanks again for the time. I really appreciate this.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I wanted to start by saying congratulations on the Pratchino win at Orlando. I know we talked before. You were talking about really wanting the finish, and you got it. So congratulations. How good did that feel to get that win and that finish?
It felt great. It was the first full camp I had in a while, and it paid off. I went into the fight with no injuries, a good camp, a lot of training partners, and it was kind of just I had to reprove it to myself that I've still got the power at a UFC level. So I had to go up a weight class to do it, but it made me feel pretty good about myself.
And I think he definitely proved it. I mean, Pratchino is a guy who, if you just watch the UFC, maybe you don't know him, but he was definitely doing some damage over in one championship. So I think that was a quality win right there.
I agree, and I watched all of his fights a couple times from one, and he's fought some real studs over there too. And his takedown defense was good. His knockout power was always there. So I really am proud of that victory.
Now, here we are, a couple of months later, and you are in another light heavyweight bout. So is this going to be a permanent move now? Last time you said, kind of we'll see what happens. Are you leaning in a direction to staying, or are you still playing it by ear?
I'm leaning towards staying. The camp is way easier when I don't have to cut 50 pounds. I'm just cutting 30 pounds now, and it's made life so much easier. But I'm still game to go back to 85 if the UFC ever wants me, or if there's a fight that makes sense. When I become I would not be one of those champions that holds out for a money fight. I become a champion, I will fight the 185 champ at whatever weight class the next day if they need me to. So I'm happy bouncing around, but not as happy cutting, but I'm willing to.
I get that totally. And 50 is a huge cut. Now, one of the things, and I've spoken to a few fighters of late, not just in middleweight or light heavyweight, but just in general, who, when the CSAC or whoever it was came out with new weight class ideas, said, hey, I'd love a 165. Would you be interested in a 195?
No, yeah, really no. I think once if they got rid of 70, made it 75, and added 65, that's the only weight class that would make sense for it. If you add a 95 or 220 or anything else, you're just going to dilute the other weight classes. If you put a 95, you're going to get half the 205, which is already kind of a thin division. You get half of those guys cutting down, you'll get half the middleweights going up, and you just end up with three weak weight classes. So if ever there was enough talent in the pools to do it, which I think there would be at 65, I think that would be the only place to be able to do it. Kind of like they just introduced the 125 and the 145 female division, and there's not enough people to make the division a viable division. I mean, they'll have a 25 champion and everything, but it's not a real. It's not going to have as much triumph behind it as the 15 and 35 will.
Do you think they're going to come in with time? Because flyweight for women seems like that has plenty of room to grow, and I think enough people will go there. Featherweight's always been the question mark, though, and I've always said if you build it, they will come. But do you think they'll eventually fill out, or are those divisions going to struggle for a while?
I think they're going to struggle for a while. There's not that many girls that fight, and it's a growing sport. Ronda Rousey was the first to introduce it to the world, and you're starting to get some girls to do it. But when you even look at who's on the roster of both weight classes, they've got some. The roster is filled with 500 records or close to 500 records. It's just a new division. It's kind of like when the UFC first started out with the men. There wasn't nearly the amount of talent in the world as there is now. There's 20 years later or 30 years later, and you've had time to develop it. So I think eventually you'll get the female division that has some real talent.
Now, speaking of this on this subject, just for another one quick question, because I was actually going to ask you, and you mentioned 205 not being the deepest division, and I was going to word it as it's kind of a land of opportunity right now. But does that play a factor when you look at middleweight and the title picture there has been kind of muddled for a while, and it's starting to clear up now, but you look at 205 and okay, Cormier is going up, but it does seem like it's kind of wide open right now. Does that play a factor in your decision, or is it just the weight cutting?
It's not even the weight cut that made me decide. It was the opportunity. They didn't have anyone for me at 85, and so I said, all right, I'll go up, and they found someone for me. Staying at 205, the weight cut is much better. I can still do the 85. I'm happy to not have to, but I can still get to 85 if I need to. It's just little more work, a lot less eating.
Now, to get an idea of how much work, you said you were dropping about 50 pounds. How far out from the fight? I mean, I assume you diet down and then you go into the cut, but how far out from the fight did you really have to start focusing on that cut?
Well, for me, as soon as the fight is over, I start lifting again. So I've always loved lifting. And I also eat. So I'm not saying it's just lifting. But I'll get to about 230. Maybe a little bit lighter, but right around there. And so as soon as I find the fight, I start my diet. I start getting down. The week of the fight, I'm usually at about 205 to 200, and I'll cut 15 to 20 pounds that week. I've been using George Lockhart's diet system for quite a while. Well, for 2.5 years now, and that made a huge difference in how difficult the cut was. But at 205, I'm still using his system. I'm just not going down quite as low.
Now, here you are at 205, UFC Utica in New York. You've got Villante there. He's been fighting some tough guys as well. Latifi, Shogun, Pat Cummins. What are you kind of expecting in this one?
You know what? I'm just expecting a fight. Out of the 85, I fought a few guys that they beat me because they didn't want to fight me. They kicked my legs and just, outpoint me. Which I've told everyone, if you want to beat me, that's how you do it. Just don't fight me. I don't expect that out of him. I think he's going to have a decent game plan, whether it's standing or take me down. He's going to come in ready to perform. And I think he's going to, for 3 rounds, try to defeat me, not outpoint me.
And it does seem, I mean, you're both guys who know how to finish. You're both guys, I think, who go for the finish. He's got plenty of KOs, TKOs. Do you get the sense that maybe this one's not going 3 rounds?
I always say that. It's always my goal to not let it go 3 rounds. And I heard him in an interview, and it's his goal to not let this thing go 3 rounds. So I'm sure one of us will be right. And I'm sure both of us are going to be trying to be right.
Well, you got to figure one of you has a pretty good chance of being right on that. It sounds like it's going to be a fun fight. The time frame, because I know you like to fight a lot, were you looking to get in a little sooner, or did this kind of come along right when you wanted it?
This is fine. Sooner would have been great, but I really want to keep my 6 to 8 week camp period. For a long time, I was pushing them out, 3 or 4 weeks, and or injured for most of them, and I really want to make that effort of climbing the ranks, getting to that title shot, and fighting just fighting at the best Sam level there is.
Do you feel that as you get older, that camp becomes more important, and kind of taking the short notice fights becomes a little harder on you, or?
Based on my last short notice fight, that one was rough. Hindsight's 20/20 on that one. I made a mistake going to Poland, but I was pretty sure I was going to win up until I didn't win. So I don't know. Depending on where I am, what I'm up to, and I'm always working out. It's just whether or not I've got a huge cut ahead of me or not.
All right, now if you had to give a prediction for this one, how do you see it ending?
I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everyone: a 3rd round submission.
All right, I like that. On another topic, and this is something that kind of twigged with me because you've trained with Hendo, and you've talked about your revenge tour for guys who have beaten your mentor, so to speak. And guys have kind of been aging out of the sport. The first generation, we've seen it coming more and more. A lot of the guys are gone. And then we saw like the Shamrocks, the Gracies, the Severns sticking around. Now we're seeing Chuck Liddell coming back, maybe fighting Ortiz. We've seen Krokop come back. We've seen Fedor come back. Not guys who have anything. Well, actually, Fedor did have that fight with Hendo. Hendo won it. But just in general, even Hendo has said, hey, for the right money, maybe one more. Probably not, but maybe. And it came to mind, this talking point's come up. Does MMA need like a senior circuit, like old timer hockey? I mean, I'm Canadian, so that's, it's bigger here than you probably don't even notice it in the States, but old timer hockey was quite a thing for a while. Do we need a senior circuit to make sure these guys are fighting guys their own caliber?
I don't think there should be a senior circuit per se, labeled that. But I love what Bellator's doing. They have a senior circuit. They have the old guys fighting. They just don't call it a senior circuit. And I would love to watch those fights. I think you should let those guys, pass USADA or not get USADA, juice them out of their guilt more or less. I can't wait to see Vitor. What do they call him? TR Vitor?
TR Belfort, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him again. And so I'd love to see it. Do it for the fans. The guys love fighting. For me personally, I can't imagine a time when I'm not fighting, but I know I'm going to get there eventually. I'm hoping I got another 15 years left, but we'll see. And that's, I would love to see it. I would love to see him go at it, whether or not it's called the senior league or just getting to watch the fights.
So just smart matchmaking, really. I mean, you don't got to call it the Seniors League. Just don't pair Chuck Liddell up with John Jones, basically.
Yeah, not unless they're going to pay Chuck a whole bunch.
Fair enough. Aside from Villante, I know I hate asking people to look past fights, and we always say we don't want to do it. But when you look at the 205 landscape, since we're kind of on the topic of 205 again, is there anyone out there that you'd be interested in following the Villante fight? Maybe someone you want to ask for when you get the win.
I'm still looking. I usually decide that the week of my fight. I'll go through and I'll watch a bunch of stuff and kind of see who I'm looking at. But I'm always open to suggestions. So if you or any of your listeners want to tweet me, let me know who they want to see me go against next. I'd love to break into that top 10. I got close at 185, but I'm gonna get it here at 205.
All right, man. Sounds good. I like that idea. We should have a contest. Pick Sam Alvey's next opponent. I think that would be gangbusters.
Yo, I think it would be great. I think people would love it.
All right, man. Hey, I want to really thank you for the time today. I super appreciate it again. Looking forward to the fight June 1st, Utica, New York. And you're going to be taking on Villante. That's going to be awesome.